It's the Evening Show Live.
Tonight's special guest, gold and platinum selling comedian, Mark Lowry.
And now, our host, Michael Gorey.
Well, good evening and welcome to a very special edition of the Evening Show Live. It's our Christmas edition, and I can't think of anybody better to have on than someone who really, you're known for Christmas because of your great song, Mary Did You Know? Mark Lowry.
Hey, how are you, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good.
Michael, is everything going good for you?
Everything is going great, and I really appreciate you taking some time tonight to be with us for this Christmas special.
Well, I even got a Christmassy backdrop, so,
I love it.
You know, because I wanted to be hip like you.
Well, we're in the Cool Glasses Club, I think, you and I.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Well, hey, many people in the secular world will know you, or at least your work, being the songwriter for what I think is the greatest Christmas song of all time, Mary Did You Know? How and when did you get the lyrics for that? How did that come to you?
Well, thank you, first of all, but Buddy Green and I wrote this song. I wrote the lyric in 1984 because my pastor had called me and asked me if I would write the Living Christmas Tree program for our church. And being young in 1984 and not realizing I couldn't, I said I would. And then I proceeded to try to write a whole new Christmas program. Well, I'd never done it before, didn't know how to do it. But I finagled my way through it by writing monologues to go between great Christmas songs that were already written. And one of the monologues I wrote was, wondering. I wonder if Mary realized the power and the authority and the majesty she cradled in her arms that first Christmas. I wonder if she realized those little fingers that were wrapped around hers were the same fingers that had scooped out the oceans and formed the rivers. And those infant lips were the same lips that had spoken worlds into existence. And so I was kind of trying to sound like Gloria Gaither a little bit and waxing eloquent, I guess. But every night after, when the pastor gave the invitation, because all Baptists do, he would always requote that, because it goes on to say the little child that she delivered that first Christmas would one day on a cross deliver her, and that's where I got those two lines, and that when she kissed her little baby, she was kissing the face of God, and I remember when I wrote that thinking, whoa, that gives me chills even right now, remembering when I wrote it. I wrote it on a Macintosh computer that I had.
Really?
I wrote everything on a Macintosh computer because I could type fast as I could think. And to write like this takes too long. So I learned to type, and I just would, I remember when those the child that you delivered would one day on a cross deliver you. I thought, whoa. I hadn't heard that before. At least I don't recall. And the same on so it was a gift. I tell Buddy, if we ever do it twice, I'll think we're pretty good. But we've only done it once, and it was a gift from God to us. If he had given it to Gloria Gaither, she'd get all the credit, because people would expect it. Would come from an idiot and a harmonica player. Who saw that coming?
Well, you wrote it in 84.
And Buddy wrote music to it in 1991.
91. Who was the first person to record that? Was that you or the
Michael
local band?
English. No, I didn't even know I could sing it till one night in Detroit after it had become a hit, because all these people had recorded. Michael English recorded it first, then Kathy Mattea, then some opera singer named Kathleen Battle, and then after that I lost track. But I remember the big ones.
Didn't Dolly Parton record it?
Dolly Parton and Carrie Underwood just did it too.
Wow.
So I'm blessed. I am so blessed because if I could say one thing to the world, that would be it.
Yeah.
you know? And now I get to say it and don't even have to be there.
And it's a wonderful truth, and it's a truth that I think in 2020 the world needs to hear. I was thinking we could write a song. We'd call it a COVID Christmas. I'll have a COVID Christmas. But
I'll
but
have a
I don't know.
COVID Christmas. I wrote one. I didn't write one. I gave Bill, asked Jimmy Yeary to write one to the tune of "It's a Wonderful World." And let me just find that for you. COVID.
Jimmy Yeary is a tremendous
Isn't he
singer.
phenomenal?
Yes.
Oh, where is it? COVID world. Snort. Wait. 3 ways. Oh, come on, Mark. I just found it. Hold on a second. You can edit this, can't you?
Oh, we'll leave it in.
Oh, you will?
It-
I'm looking for it. I just had it. Anyway, okay, let me, please, now my ADD's kicked in and I have to find it.
That's okay.
And it is going to be COVID. Let me see, COVID. Oh, here it is. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
There ain't nobody shaking hands anymore. 6 feet apart, in line at the store. It's hard to ignore in this new COVID world. Everyone's become a new Facebook star. People wearing masks alone in their cars. You know who you are. In this new COVID world, every time I cough or feel the slightest bit sickened, it scares me to death, 'cause I'm not a spring chicken at the grocery store. I buy everything in twos. I got so much toilet paper. I got more toilet paper than I'll ever use. So please go away, Mr. 19. I hope I'm still alive when they find a vaccine, so I can tell jokes and sing in this new COVID world. I'm glad I know the king in this new COVID world. Isn't that cute?
I love it.
And then I don't know if I wrote this. If we'd only known when COVID first started, it could be spread by people who farted. But I didn't make this song. Did you hear that? Seriously, there's an article.
No.
That's not a joke.
Really?
It can be spread that way. There is an
It can
article.
be. Mark, how can it be spread?
Through gaseous emissions. It can. Friend sent me the article. Google it. Can COVID be spread by farting? That's the question. Deal with it. That's spelled FARTING. And it's true.
It's true.
I mean, the article's true. I don't know if, that there is an article. I don't know if it's actually true. But who knows? This thing's so crazy. It could be, who knows? Who knows? Nobody.
Nobody knows.
The
But we
trouble I've
digress.
seen, nobody knows but Jesus. It reminded me of a song. Nobody knows.
Nobody
What?
knows. Now, Mark, I did not realize this until I was just working some questions in for tonight. Not only did you write Mary Did You Know, but you have a children's book, Christmas children's book, Piper's Night Before Christmas, The
Yeah.
Adventures of Piper the Hyper Mouse.
Right.
Where did that come from?
Well, the first one came, I was just sitting on my couch, I'll never forget it. It's one of those weird, another gift. But the first one was about Piper's Night, not that, no, Piper's not steals the show. The first one. I can't remember right now, but boy, it just came in pieces, actually. And I wrote down each little phrase or stanza, I guess you might call it. And then actually I just kind of puzzled it together and it was done. But this one, Piper's Night Before Christmas, I wrote with Martha Bolton. And that was fun, writing with her.
Yeah, and did you perform that on a Gaither video? Is that right?
Well, probably, because he has me perform it every Christmas on his Christmas shows when I travel with him on those shows. He'll have me do it. So I had to memorize it. I tell you what, memorization is getting harder. Even learning the new songs on my record, because I'm 62. They said that would leave me eventually, but.
62.
Yeah,
you don't look like you're 62.
Oh, you're kind. But I did the reason why I say memorization is getting harder, because I just did a movie.
Really?
A Christian movie. They asked for me, and I went and did it, and I played a missionary named Norm. And Norm, it's a true story, helps this lady who'd been sold into trafficking. When they finally get rid of her or done with her and think she's dead, they dump her on the side of the road, and she comes to and then starts looking for her children that had disappeared and while she was being trafficked for years. And this missionary helps her find them. And it's just a great story. So I was excited, but having to memorize those lines, I'm telling you, that was tough. But back to Christmas.
Yes. Hey, when does the movie come out, Mark? Do you know?
Comes out in 2021.
2021.
Yeah.
And what's the name of it?
It's called Pulled from Darkness. And it's written and directed by George A. Johnson, who's done a lot of those films like that.
Oh, wonderful.
It was a pleasure to work with them. They were so kind, because I let them know I've never done this before and I could screw up any minute.
But you did. You did great, I'm sure.
Well, I hope.
I
I
can't
hope
wait
so.
to see it. Can't wait to see it.
He said I did good, so that's good.
Do you have a favorite Christmas song other than "Mary Did You Know"?
Oh man, what a great question. Oh, there's so many, but they're all the old ones, like Silent Night. You know that one?
Oh yeah.
Holy Night. I love that one. I love It Came Upon a Midnight Clear. That's a good one. Oh, Holy Night, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd pick.
I love even the vocal band. Mary was the first one to carry the gospel.
Yeah.
That's a great line. Do you know who wrote that song? Do you know?
Bill Gaither and me. He came in singing one day, Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, that's all he had. But he'd sing the melody. I said, hey, before you give that to Gloria, would you sing that? And so we were in the studio, so he did. And then where he needed lyrics, he just went, da 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 ba ba da ba da ba. Mary was. He wanted a real kind of groove and kind of a minor thing, So I went home and listened to it 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 until it started talking to me.
Wow.
And it will if you listen long enough. And that's what I wrote. I wrote down. I like that. I like that lyric too. I'm very proud of that one too.
People know you, of course, from writing Mary Did You Know. Others will recognize you as a vocalist for the Gaither Vocal Band many years. And then some will know you as a Christian comedian or humorist. Growing up, was there a comedic hero that you had?
Well, I love Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
Because he told stories, and there were stories about his family, and that made me think I knew him. He was more of a storyteller. And there were preachers really that I loved so much that were so funny. B.R. Lakin was
Yes.
a preacher who would do 20 minutes of stand up before he ever got into the sermon. And then he'd slide into the sermon and he'd lay you at the feet of Jesus and you never saw it coming
Wow.
because you're laughing and thinking and rejoicing all the way there. And I loved that. I loved how humor could disarm people.
Yeah.
And I learned, early on, and when I say early on, about 1980, when I was traveling by myself, and I had to do something while the little old man in the back of the church would change the soundtracks. So I started talking, and the people started listening and laughing, and that's how I knew they were listening. Because they were Baptist. They were independent Baptists, which means they make Southern Baptists look like radical liberals.
Yes.
You know?
I grew up in an independent Baptist church, so I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, but they would laugh. They wouldn't shout. They wouldn't clap. They wouldn't, you wouldn't know they were listening except they would laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how and so I just started telling stories and I'd put humor all through the stories. I'd pepper the story with humor. Now, the beauty of that is that if they don't laugh, you've still told your story.
Yeah.
Every time you want or expect to laugh and they don't laugh, you just keep going. Like I didn't mean for you to. So
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt so much.
Well, had you met Bill Gaither during that time frame before he asked you to be with the vocal band? How did that come about?
I had vaguely met him, like he's vaguely met many people.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any quality time with him until I went to audition. And the way that happened was, well, there's two stories. The one I remembered was I sang at Estes Park. The sound man there was Gaither's sound man. He went home and told Bill. Bill asked him, in fact, he said, "Did you hear anything interesting at Estes Park this year?" And this was 1988. And he told him about me because I'd been given a morning slot. And I did really, really well that morning. I got a word recording contract from that
Wow.
morning. And then he told Gaither about me. And I remember what I did. Sandy Patty introduced me that morning. And I said, "Thank you, Amy, for that wonderful introduction." I said, "Your first album, My Father's Eyes, is still my favorite." And everybody, of course, knew who I was referring to and was laughing at the audacity. And then I said, "Are you ready to rock and roll?" And they all went, "Yeah." I said, "Tough, I don't do that." And I went into some inspirational song and told the story about going to Pittsburgh and not getting paid. And they all related to that because they'd all been to a church that, didn't show them any love.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful moment. And then Gaither invited me to come and audition. Because Gary McSpadden was leaving at that time.
Okay. So so that lineup, was that Jim Murray and Michael English, and then you? Was that the first Inception that you were a part of?
That I was a part of, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 9 years old when I first heard the gospel music of any kind. Little church that I went to, the bus driver that picked me up, he listened to gospel music, and he said, "You've got to listen to this group. They're called the Gaither Vocal Band," and it was you and Guy Penrod and Jonathan Pierce. And,
yes.
That is my favorite vocal band lineup. I just
really
love
that. Was your first, wasn't it?
It was my first.
There is something about your first. I'm telling you, whether it's your first kiss or your first whiff of an aroma or your first time my grandmother could remember the first time she ever ate a potato chip.
Wow.
Which I cannot remember the first time. But because they didn't have them before that she's like a young girl. But the thing is, like when the Rambos, what changed my life as a young boy, like what changed yours or it really impacted you, and I'm grateful that we did, was Buck, Dottie, and Reba, the singing Rambos. Oh my goodness. There's nothing like it to me. But I'm honored that I was part of the group that when you were 9, how old does that make me?
I was that was well almost 30 years ago. So,
Yeah, yeah.
it was incredible, and then of course my first gospel concert that I ever got to go to in person was the Cathedrals, and
Oh my goodness.
that was life changing.
That was a hoedown, is what that
Yes,
was. Because
yeah,
those guys, it was pure entertainment,
yeah, yeah,
and ministry. Not, but I mean, they just, you know, there may be a group out there that electrifies the stage like the Happy Goodman family did
sure.
and the Rambos did, but I haven't heard it.
Mm.
I'm telling you, when Vestal Goodman walked out with that hair piled up like that Simpson lady, what was it? The Simpsons, what's the show?
Marge
Marge
Simpson.
Simpson, Vestal had a big old, it's like a bunch of cow patties piled on high of each with hairnet holding it down, and she had that beaded gown, and they would hit that stage and sing, well, I wouldn't take nothing for my journey. I'm getting, look, chills.
Yeah,
I'm getting
I
chills.
understand.
I can't explain it.
Well, uh, you two had you and Vestal had a special relationship, right?
Oh,
She loved you.
well, I
Uh,
don't really think it was, she made everybody feel that they had a special relationship. She really did. If you were close to her, you felt special.
has there been anybody, maybe the Rambos, perhaps, somebody that you really looked up to, and then you got to know them? Who's one of those people that you just loved that relationship?
Well, Bill
Maybe had gone on.
Gaither. Oh, I
Yeah.
mean, in a good way?
Yes.
You're not
Yes.
saying once you meet him, it's
No. No. No.
no, because there's that too. But
Sure.
actually, there hasn't been much of that, if any. Because I'm telling you, look what I've done. I've knocked my green screen over, but I'm still covered. Anyway, Bill Gaither's one. I mean, good night. I did an album when I was 9 years old because my parents thought when my voice changed, I wouldn't be able to sing anymore. And so they went down to made a little record for $500, right? Well, it was entitled He Touched Me. So I
Wow.
grew up singing Bill Gaither songs. Our church idolized Bill Gaither, William J. Gaither. Anything with that on it, we sang it. And then to get to meet him, the main reason I went to audition when I was invited was because I wanted to meet him. I had no intentions of joining the group. I had no intentions of being in a quartet. I had never been in a quartet. I'd never sung in a group and didn't want to. But I did want to meet Bill Gaither. So me and my brother drove to Nashville. And I wasn't nervous because I didn't want the job.
Wow.
So it made it easier.
Sure.